It'll be fine. There's a little filter on it. So, yeah, I think we're live. How exciting! Hopefully. um, so yeah, people can let us know in the comments if they can hear us all right, but I believe they can. How exciting! So yeah, welcome to another episode of Chatter. Dave, thank you very much for joining me. This is everybody. This is Dave Carr, who formerly of Decentraland, who's now working at Parcel. So welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, no problem. So I know we tried to do this earlier in the year, but with everything sort of, very much in the headlines at the minute with NFTs and, the Metaverse and digital real estate, it seems like the perfect time.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that perfect time seems to be shifting every single week with some other news announcement coming up. But yeah, it's 2021's been a big year.
So why don't you start by giving people like an idea of who you are and your background and stuff so they can understand what your expertise is before we dive into things.
Sure. So I work for Parcel. As you mentioned, I'm heading up business development for that organization. And Parcel specializes in being the destination for the buying and selling of virtual real estate. So land NFTs. And land in virtual worlds are NFTs, they're non-fungible tokens that we've all been hearing about. And so in the first instance, anybody looking to buy virtual land, newcomers, I suppose, but also to a degree seasoned buyers have had to navigate through the various different worlds and deal with their own unique user experience and maps and that kind of thing, or they've been rerouted to OpenSea, which is currently the big marketplace for NFTs. And it's not been a great user experience. So what Parcel has done is aggregated the listings at the moment of the four main virtual worlds. So that's Decentraland, the Sandbox, Cryptovoxels, and Somnium Space. And so, yeah, we're the marketplace for virtual real estate, and it's all about improving that accessibility, educating and onboarding people. It's also about real-time price appraisals and making sense of valuations. So if you're looking to buy land in a virtual world, or if you're looking to buy across numerous virtual worlds, it's hard to know which ones have value for your specific needs. And then when you're in those worlds, it's hard to kind of know, what's the best location. There's not a huge amount of information. And there was a white paper that came out just recently from a research group. And the conclusions were effectively what we already know, which is proximity is good to like things that are going on, but it didn't delve too much more deeply into that. So we're very early days in this space, and Parcel will, in terms of our plans, will grow to be a much broader marketplace. So not just specializing in virtual land, but we'll connect landowners with creators and get content developed in the virtual worlds. We're also looking at onboarding and dealing closely with the AR worlds. So, Decentraland and Sandbox, they've got a lot of the headlines when we talk about the metaverse, but there's a whole another side, which is augmented reality. And it will only take an Apple or another device manufacturer to come out with a decent pair of AR equipped glasses for mainstream uptake. And then I think that AR will probably be the first of the main kind of metaverse experiences, if that's the case. So that's Parcel in a nutshell, I suppose. Like I say, it's early days, and we're still rapidly growing and building and expanding as the days go.
Okay, so this might seem like a really strange or silly question, actually, and this is something I asked Johnny Camley, though we were talking about the episode I did with him. When one of these, so for example, take Decentraland or Sandbox as an example, and say they have their digital world, like how restricted and finite is that now and in the future? Like if say all of the plots in Decentraland in the current world are sold, and there's still more people coming in that want it. Like, is this something that will be expanded? Do you think there would be expansions of the worlds that exist, or like creation of like new, more and more different worlds?
Well, Decentraland has 90,000 parcels of land. I think Johnny mentioned that in your discussion, and that's it. That's not to say that there couldn't be an expansion. Now, Decentraland is a decentralized virtual world that is owned and governed by anybody who holds land in Decentraland. And the DAO, or the Decentralized Autonomous Organization, which is its method of governance, if you're a landowner or you hold the Mana token, you can put forward a submission, and the submission is then voted upon by the community. So it is a very, that's the mode of governance for Decentraland. Now, the community could very well decide tomorrow to vote to expand the world. That would be up to them. But in terms of how Decentraland operates right now, there's the 90,000 parcels, and that's it. And they're all owned. There were auctions in 2017, 2018. They were all bought up, and there's obviously a secondary market of resales. At some point, and Parcel will be involved in this, there'll be a rental market. So, for people looking for a shorter term experience or a pop-up, or let's say a brand wants to reserve a plot of land for a specific event or for a certain amount of time in the year, that rental marketplace will come into action. But to the other point that you made, will there be more and more virtual worlds? Yes, absolutely. I guess a really good way to look at the metaverse, and in fact, if I'm going to describe it to my parents, I'm going to say that the metaverse is basically the internet in a more immersive and engaging format. So if you think about the very early days of the internet, everybody's setting up a website, and there are websites just absolutely everywhere popping up, serving all different types of interest groups and needs. I think that's going to be the same with the virtual worlds, and you're going to find virtual worlds that are very much geared towards gaming, and that's a sandbox or a Star Atlas. And in fact, Star Atlas is probably more of a single narrative type virtual world, because it's space. It's got a very kind of enclosed ecosystem in that regard. Sandbox tends to house lots of different games and empowers the creator to create their own games for the other users to play. So more of a Roblox type of feel. Decentraland is more of it's positioned itself as more of a virtual social world. So it's about doing with the world what you will, and it invites different groups and different communities to have their own place and to interact with one another, and to have digital galleries and have music festivals and what have you. So I think you'll see many, many more worlds pop up. This is very much just the beginning. In terms of the virtual side of things, in the augmented reality side of things, if you're talking about an OVR, which is one of the groups or projects that is effectively mapped the physical world with an overlay of land parcels. You've also got Superworld, you've got Earth 2. Then walking down the street, that'll be another metaverse experience where, wearing your glasses, there'll be content served to you on the different parcels of land owned by people who have bought OVR or Superworld land. They'll be able to create content that will be served to you on that augmented reality layer. We're starting to get into some pretty fine details here, but
yeah. Okay, so hang on. Can I pause you there, just because I want to make sure I've understood what you're saying here. So, are you saying that people will be walking down the street, say, in one of the virtual worlds, and they'll see things, or are you saying that there will be virtual worlds superimposed on top of the real world that people will have, say, Google Glass that they're wearing?
Yeah, so a world of the type of Decentraland or the Sandbox, for example, that is something that you currently access via web browser and then client, and then eventually VR headset. Somnium Space is one of the main worlds that we deal with on Parcel. They are already VR headset equipped. But that demands putting on the headset to get the full experience. You can still access via browser client, but it demands the headset. AR is slightly different in that, let's say we have an Apple come out with a headset, or not a headset, sorry, it's just a pair of very simple glasses that will interact with the physical world in terms of a Pokemon Go type experience, which you currently do through your phone. If you think about the current AR access for most people, it's through the phone, a Pokemon Go style thing. If it shifts to glasses, then content will be served through what you see in the physical world every day. Now, where the projects like OVR and Superworld work is that they have created a layer over the top of the physical world, And they've divided that layer into parcels that can be purchased using their token. And then on that layer of land, you can add content. So that means if the Apple glasses that you're wearing are equipped to be served with OVR or Super World content, then technically speaking and theoretically, you can walk down the street, and if you walk past a plot of land on the OVR network or the Super World network that is housing content, then that could be served to you. So a brand, for example, could have a pop-up shop on your street without you actually having to go to the retail outlet or go online to visit their store. And that's what we mean about the metaverse being a more immersive and more immediate and engaging experience, because it comes to you. It's around you, potentially around you at all times.
Okay, wow. That is absolutely mind-blowing. So they're packaging up parts of the real world to sell the digital space upon which they will imprint things to wear on to, or that will come up when you're wearing the headset or the glasses. That's right. That's fucking insane, man. So can they do that? Can they like, obviously they're doing it, but I mean, like, what are the property rights there? And like, so say someone doesn't want their bit of land used for this, like, is there any recourse, or is it only like, would the argument be just like, you're not looking at it, it's only in this specific virtual experience that you would see these things?
That's a really good question. And I don't know what the answer is to that, because you run into these issues if you've got like 2 or 3 or more projects that are each mapping the world. You could own the parcel on one project, but maybe not own it on another. So I think there will be issues in terms of, let's say you've got a listed property, or it is a public piece of land that traditionally in our general interactions daily doesn't allow for branding or any kind of corporatization or of that particular space. So then you're dealing with AR, they don't want people to view this building or this space and have any kind of, let's say, branding upon it or advertising space. So I think there'll be some issues down the track with that. I think that there will also be an issue of whether a device like an Apple, and if we know anything about the way Apple operates, it is a gatekeeper for content. And so will these worlds and these projects have to create or get permission to be housed on the device or be interacted with by people through the device? So there'll be a few barriers thrown up, I think, as we move further into this.
Okay. So is there any like plans to say, take this technology and use like massive like warehouses or open spaces and like have people like physically walk around in like a generated world? Do you know what I mean? That they could like build like big houses or warehouses like full of stuff that would be blank, and then you would walk in and it would look like, I don't know, a casino, or you'd have like different things like everywhere. Is that something that's been discussed?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that OVR, for example, has mapped the world essentially, and I know that they're embarking on a project to map internal spaces as well. That is obviously on the cards, because you need to be able to include that experience inside as well as externally. So yeah, there's nothing to stop an area of being mapped and then content being laid over the top of that, for sure.
Yeah, so fascinating. The whole space is mind blowing to me. So to move to like digital real estate specifically, like purchasing it, what would be your pitch to people and they say, okay, so I'm buying this virtual piece of land and it's in a world that's created by this company. Like, what happens if the company goes under, or like what's the long-term sort of value on this asset compared to, say, buying like a bit of property in the real world?
Yeah, so this is the key to decentralization, I suppose, in that, and if we take Decentraland as the example, because I'm most familiar with that. So it is space that is owned and governed by the community. That content that you see and interact with when you go into Decentraland is hosted on servers around the world. So it's served to you based on where you're located. And I suppose theoretically you could get to the point at which, so Decentraland is assisted by a foundation, a non-profit organization that holds mana tokens and uses that for grants funding for the creative community and other purposes. So let's say, so for a Decentraland to go out of business, it would not necessarily mean that Decentraland would cease to exist, because the community is really, they own and they drive the experience within Decentraland. It's when you get into discussions of centralized experiences. So the most famous ones being Roblox, I guess Fortnite, and whatever Epic Games is building. Yeah. And then, of course, Meta, which we are assuming will be a centralized experience. Then there would be issues for if Facebook went out of business, then any content that you held in there would be affected by that. Yeah.
So this idea of a decentralized autonomous organization really fascinates me, because I'm pretty sure I had never heard the term until about 6 months ago.
Right.
And so for example, let's take Decentraland as an example. So it's governed by the owners of plots of land. Say you're renting a plot of land, that doesn't bestow you any rights on things, does it? Or is it literally just the only people with a say are whoever has the land there, right? And
if you hold mana tokens.
Okay.
So if you hold tokens and if you hold land, that gives you voting rights. Yeah, I guess owning mana gives you a stake in the value and the future of the world.
Okay, so it's not just it's basically anyone that is invested in some way in the world is in charge of it, essentially. So how does that work? Do they have like polls or is there like council meetings in Decentraland? Do you have like a big government building or something where everyone arrives and sits and discusses this?
It's pretty old school. It's a page where people submit proposals, and in the early days, and the DAO really was kind of only formalized this year, and to a degree, the finer points are still being ironed out. How to get through deadlocks, and just exactly what the weighting of governance is, but I think that's an issue that, because it's such a new form of governance, that all DAOs are sort of grappling with. But yeah, it's a single site, and you submit to the DAO, and it gets voted on, and it passes and is enacted, or it is rejected, and you have to revise your proposal and come up with a better option that the community as a whole agrees upon, and just take it from there. So DAOs, the one big criticism of DAOs is that it makes governance quite slow, potentially, because if a proposal is for whatever reason rejected, you can submit again, it's rejected again. It means that, making progress can sometimes be slow, other times it can be super, super quick. In terms of Decentraland, there is almost like a security council, if you like, that oversees the DAO and can kind of step in if there's, attacks or, bad actors doing, untoward things. But generally the DAO ticks along, and yeah, it's a simple matter of submission and either approval or rejection. So voting, really, but not voting every 4 years or every 5 years as we do with real-time government or physical world government. It's constant proposals every single day.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's not like our current form of government is particularly rapid at making decisions.
True. Yeah.
So how valuable is this market at the minute?
It's hard to say how valuable it is, because I haven't seen any major analysis in terms. I mean, you can effectively look at it in terms of volume of sales. And I've got some notes. Like Q1 of this year was around 10 million of transaction volume. Shift to Q2, a couple months later, it was up to 40 million. And then when you think of the last week of November, there was 100 million in Metaverse land sales. You can see how fast it's growing, but also how much value is being pumped into this thing. In 1 week, there was a record set in Decentraland, a group called Tokens, which owns another group called the Metaverse Group, paid $2.5 million US for a parcel of land in the fashion district. Only a few days later, that record was smashed by, I think it was Republic Realm, paid 4.5 for a parcel in the Sandbox. So it's, these record land sales are being trumped almost week by week. And so that kind of gives you a pretty good insight into whether or not that determines value, but it's certainly what people are paying for land and gives you a guide as to how hot the market is right now.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. $4.5 million, I assume. But
yeah, it was around the 4 point something. Yeah, I think it was around 4.5. Yeah.
Wow. So, like, how big is that piece of land, like dimension wise? And is there like physical limits on up and down? Do you know what I mean? Is like, can you do anything with that space? Like, can you? Yeah.
Well, specific to Decentraland, the height that you can build in is dependent on the width of or the amount of land you have in terms of breadth. So if you bought a single parcel of land, you couldn't put a skyscraper on it. So there are, I guess, there are limitations that have been brought across from the physical world. So in terms of how big that land sale was in the Sandbox at 4.5, I don't know specifically, but there've been parcel sales of like 116 plots or pieces of land, which make it an estate. I think these, and just today, actually, the Sandbox tweeted that there is another buyer who will be purchasing an even bigger parcel of land in the Sandbox in the coming days or weeks. So at this point, it doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon.
So, like, can you build across? Say you buy like several parcels of land. Can you build across the boundaries of it? Does it work like that in that sense?
Yeah. The boundaries really end at where the estate ends. So if it's, let's say, 100 parcels of land, you can build across all of those internal boundaries, but then, you get up against the border wall, you can't go any further because it's most likely going to be someone else's land or a road or something like that.
Okay, so it's just, yeah, I'm still trying to like get my head around exactly like what the physical rules are in the world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I assume then as well that like a lot of at least initially when I went into Decentraland 3-4 months ago, something like that, it was really cool, but it was a bit like blocky almost. It kind of gave me like a Minecraft vibe, which like, not that that's a bad thing at all. Like, do you think these worlds do you think they'll like stick with that kind of old school vibe, or do you think that they'll be like constantly trying to make it like closer and closer and closer to reality?
I think Decentraland and the Sandbox also has a very blocky, probably even more of a Minecraft kind of feel to it. But Decentraland has chosen a particular aesthetic, and I think that could evolve, definitely. It certainly has evolved if you compare, images or screenshots from only a few years ago to today. In fact, one of the art director of Decentraland, they held a Metaverse festival with acts like Dead Mouse. Even Paris Hilton turned up and put on a show. The art director posted a screenshot from like 2017, 2018 to 2021, and the difference is, it's night and day. It's amazing. So I fully believe that aesthetic will evolve. Whether or not it becomes even more lifelike, I think that kind of that sort of defeats the purpose. Decentraland, and I know that the other worlds are designed to be their own experience. It's almost as if someone built a Call of Duty world and you went in and you experienced that but it had a very much a Call of Duty feel or a Skyrim feel or, pick your favorite video game. That they each have their unique aesthetics, and I think the worlds will probably hold to that. And, if we pitch 5-10 years down the track, those worlds that thrive and really survive and become the big destinations will really be very much about the content they produce and the uniqueness of that experience. It won't be trying to necessarily replicate your everyday physical experience. It'll be an escape, but I think they will also be aiming to, and this is where you get into discussions about decentralized finance, that it will enhance our day-to-day in the physical world. And that's particularly true of the augmented reality experiences as well, particularly if you're walking down the street and things are served to you as you interact with people and buildings and things.
So we've kind of described like two different types of worlds here. So there's the decentralized ones and the more centralized metaverses that will be created. Which do you see being more successful or more widely used, perhaps is a better way of putting it?
That's an excellent question. I think that, okay, so if we take Facebook / Meta as the centralized front runners, although that does tend to underestimate the power of Roblox, which, to all intents and purposes, is a centralized world. But yeah, so I think that Facebook its metaverse or its virtual experience will have benefits for people who want that kind of curated, centralized experience. As you would have found going into Decentraland, there's a few hoops you have to jump through. Now, of course, they are constantly ironing those out, and it's becoming more and more user-friendly. But I think Facebook will, I probably should refer to them as Meta, but it just seems to make much more sense just to say Facebook. But
yeah,
I think
they will. Got very mad at me for calling it Meta. He was like, "No, don't let their stupid rebrand work."
Yeah. Well, there's a good argument for that, but I think regular users of Facebook today or Meta today, they like it because it gives them the content that they're looking for. That it aggregates everything they want, and that's as far as they want to go with that. I feel like there will always be a market for that, just that ease of use. I think. So there'll be the centralized metaverse, there'll be the open metaverse. And that open metaverse has really coalesced into this very vocal group. When Meta did its rebrand and its big announcement where Mark Zuckerberg was saying, we're building the metaverse, they were like, well, hang on a second, it already exists and we're building it currently. And so, you've seen groups really form around this notion of we are the open metaverse, and decentralized metaverse or virtual worlds are absolutely the future, where the creator is empowered and, the musician, the artist is empowered to, own their intellectual property and monetize it as they see fit. They're not beholden to, centralized streaming platforms or record companies or what have you. So I think there'll be an open versus centralized experience. Who do I think will win? I don't think it's a matter of one winning over the other. I think it'll be a matter of coexistence. And I think there's every opportunity for somebody to have an account with the Meta experience and also be immersed in, various worlds in the open metaverse. Just as, I play Call of Duty, but at the same time, I like dipping into Skyrim. Very, very, very different games and very different experiences, you could say. But there's enough going on in each of them that I can share the love.
So do you see this being a thing where we can jump? So so you're probably going to have to create, especially for Meta or whatever. And yeah, in any of these worlds, you're creating an aesthetic for what you look like to other people when you're walking around in these worlds. Do you think that's going to be transferable in a way from say one to the other?
Yeah, so that's the notion of interoperability, and this idea that if you have an avatar or if you have your favorite structure, your wearables, your NFT assets, that you should be able to pick them up and go from one world to another. Now, I think the organization that could crack that, and there are a number working on this concept of interoperability. If they can crack that, they'll have to crack the ability to have your aesthetic in, let's say, Decentraland, for that to be transferable to the sandbox aesthetic. So it won't be that your Decentraland avatar will be able to wander around as they do in the sandbox looking the same, because that just wouldn't make sense from a world perspective. And I think that's kind of the wrong approach. But there will need to be an agreement between the virtual worlds. I think that's a crucial step in interoperability. Then the technology to be able to port between and I guess transition into that look and feel where those assets make sense. Fortunately, a lot of assets are built using the same file system, so that's a plus. There'll be some issues, I think, going from open to centralized experiences.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of that business model for the likes of Meta. But yeah, that interoperability, that's a big thing, and whoever cracks that is going to be doing very nicely.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right there. I mean, what companies are working on this, and are they trying to essentially build like a thing where it will help you move any assets or wearables or anything from like and transfer it like aesthetically? Will it like be built on top of the different worlds in a way that will like be a separate like thing from it, in the same way that you have, say, like you can take your cryptocurrency wallet, for example, right? You can have your hardware wallet, or you can have like your wallet on, say, like Exodus or something on your laptop, right? And you can take your things, your crypto out of any exchange that deals in that one, and then move it to another exchange if you wanted that deals in that particular crypto. Do you see it being like that, where people have like wallets almost, or like digital like suitcases to bring their stuff from like one metaverse to the other?
Yeah. I think again it'll be this. If you've got these assets and it will, and we're sort of just speculating at this point, really, but I think it would have to be a matter of, you have these NFT assets. Now, if you go onto OpenSea, let's say, and you've got a collection of random NFTs, you've got some Bored Apes, you've got some land, you've got a name that you've bought, and this is all housed in your OpenSea collection. The ideal would be that you would be able to, if you like, wrap them up in a suitcase, and if you can open them up in Decentraland, and then you could also open them up in the sandbox. So let's say you've bought some land in the sandbox and you've got a nice little art gallery there which specializes in showcasing your collection. You've also got it in Decentraland. You want those pieces to be interoperable. You don't want to have to buy 2 or 3 or 4 of everything in order to accommodate the world. So there'll need to be some agreements between the worlds, but then also that technology that allows you to, anything that and proprietary, anything that you've built in Decentraland could effectively be picked up, and because you love this structure so much, could be dropped or make sense or transferable to another world as well. It's a tech and also an agreement issue at the outset.
Okay. Yeah, it's just I guess I'm just trying to like get a handle on what this is going to be like. I mean, like, part of my fear is that this becomes too good. And that, like, I spoke about this with Johnny and with Peter McCormack, who hosts the What Bitcoin Did podcast, and we were just they were both terrifying me. They were like, this is going to be so valuable and so great that maybe people will just spend all their time in there. That scares the shit out of me, man. Like,
yeah, I think there's no point in having a metaverse if it doesn't enhance your life in this physical world. I think that we tend to immediately link it with concepts that we understand. And so we revert to Ready Player One or The Matrix, or, these dystopian kind of stories that, okay, so it must mean that, which is, perfectly understandable. But I think it's the opportunities that this creates. And I think people already spend far too much time binging on Netflix, or far too much time walking through cities, scrolling through Facebook feeds. I mean, the head of Instagram says that the greatest competition, Netflix says the greatest competition to Netflix is time or sleep. I think it's sleep. Anything that distracts users of Netflix from watching Netflix is their competition, not another streaming platform, but, sleep. So I think that already people have the ability or not to regulate their own behavior. And I think we're already very inactive. And I think that the metaverse will obviously be something else that we need to contend with in terms of activity and not getting kind of swallowed up in these things. But the best metaverse experiences, I think, will be those that enhance our world and our physical world. And I think when you look at projects that are, and there's a very new project called Rewilder, I think I got the name right, and land that is purchased in the metaverse equates to land and built upon, equates to land that is also purchased in the physical world and not built upon. And this is a new concept, and I believe it's one of the very early founders of Decentraland who's created this, that, land that is purchased in the metaverse, in virtual worlds, and is built upon, that correlates with a similar size, a similar parcel or estate of land where it is just left to rewild. And so that's one very small example of how that technology can actually be used to empower people to do things in the physical world. And that's a whole other conversation, probably several conversations, but I tend to focus on the opportunities that it gives creators, architects who want to move into virtual design and create an entirely new industry for themselves, or the fashion designer who can't get into fashion school or make a break into the traditional industry, can create their own brand and store and following and monetize it and do very nicely for themselves in virtual worlds and across the metaverse. Same with music. I think music, we see more and more articles coming out about how artists can release songs as NFTs, which each track, because we know the nature of an NFT is that the foundation of it is this unique underlying code that, that NFT, it can be resold, it can be licensed, it can be part owned. You can activate your fan base to, sell your work or talk enthusiastically about your work and get a cut on their fandom. So it really does open up and empower a lot of people. And then you get into conversations about guilds like Axie Infinity, which has spawned groups like Yield Guild Games, that is enabling communities in the Philippines who, due to COVID, lost their ability to work, went into Axie and are actually generating incomes in play to earn. And then that to earn model then spreads out across education, fitness, roam to earn, learn to earn, all of these kinds of things. So there are whole new models springing up because of this technology that I think hopefully will do more good than harm.
Well, I mean, we guess we're always hoping for that. I mean, well, there's no perfect technology. I mean, even Plato thought writing was too far. So, so like, let's talk a little bit about this. Like, for creators, like for people listening, we'll get back to the artists selling their stuff as NFTs in a little bit. But like, say there was a creator and he came to you, or she came to you, or they came to you, or whoever, someone decided to come to you and was like, right, okay, say I'm an artist, or I have some music, or say you run a podcast like I do, or you're like, where would you suggest they start to figure out how to like monetize themselves basically in the metaverse? Like, where would you begin with that for someone? Like, I'm going to be selfish here and take the advice myself, but for anyone listening.
Yeah. I think, well, if we take the idea if we go with a musician, let's say, whether or not they have a fan base, let's say they have a small fan base and they're looking to grow it. So for a start, the virtual worlds have communities that are growing rapidly. So that's a new base to reach out to. What I think is the huge opportunity for musicians is the level of engagement that they can have with fans. And by that I mean, let's not focus on the pandemic and lockdown too much, because it's always been a struggle for musicians to get the gigs in the physical world. And if we just talk about the engagement in a virtual world, running events, obviously, musical events, streaming your performance into the world for people in the world to, watch and enjoy. But it goes beyond that too. And if we take the example of an electronic artist called Alice in Wonderland, who is in Decentraland, she has built her own fan HQ. People who purchase NFTs that she has released will get access to that HQ. They'll get early access to any drops that she does. She can sell merchandise direct to those people through that HQ or through that store. If she holds virtual concerts, there's no front row seats anymore. You are front and center with that artist. But the artist can also hold, and specific to Alison, she runs quests through Decentraland. So you can buy your NFT and you're part of her exclusive community and embark on these quests to unlock more benefits for you as a fan. There's another artist called Spotty Wi-Fi who released his entire album as individual NFTs. And I think it was done as a kind of a mystery drop, if you like, sold out immediately. Now, Spotty he was working as a lawyer. He had previously been a musician and then kind of thought, well, it's hard getting gigs and, it's hard to develop a fan base. And I just go on the streaming platforms and it's all kind of algorithmically generated and it's tough to break through. By engaging with this NFT community, which is at its core is very community minded, it's very collaborative. It's the one thing that struck me about and even working with Parcel and Decentraland and doing business in this industry or space, if you like, is it's not about competing with people. If you find someone who's doing something that's similar to what you're doing, you reach out and you learn from one another and you try to benefit the other organization or the other person. And so when Spotty Wi-Fi goes in and says, hey, I'm a musician, I'm dropping these, and you'll get all of these benefits. You will own the music. I won't own the music. You will own it. Or other artists who do a share structure for a number of years before it reverts back to the artist. You just have many more different ways to not only attract revenue or monetize your art, if you like, but at the outset, just getting more ears on your music and engaging with you as a musician. I just think that's the potential there. So if you're just starting out in this space, as it always was, as a musician, you need to reach out to people who might enjoy your music. And we've been doing that, up until recently, and through this, SoundCloud or Bandcamp, for example. New bands; those are really good platforms for new bands to get their music into the space. And it's just about reaching as many people as possible. So what I like about the virtual worlds is that you can reach them on various different levels, and it's that direct connection that I think appeals to fans, that they can have a piece of your work and a piece of you at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, you keep making me think of the Wu-Tang Clan album, the one that got sold it got sold as like a single pressed copy, and then it's been bought by an NFT collective or an NFT collectors group. And
that's right. Yeah.
So there's rumors that the CEO of GameStop is one of those collectors, and that they're planning to fractionalize this as an NFT and give it all to all the GameStop shareholders, which, I mean, would be like a mind-blowing step forward. It's still rumors, but like GameStop are working on something NFT based. What it is, no one really knows. But We'll
Yeah,
see.
and that's interesting. Like, as I understand, the foundation that managed to buy that back from the farmer guy, I
Yeah,
forget what his
Martin
name.
Shkreli. Yeah.
Australia, that's right. So that's a foundation that's made up of lots of different people in the crypto space, including musicians. And so I'd be curious if they were planning on dropping it to just GameStop people. But are you talking like Wall Street Bets? Is it that kind of?
Yeah, I mean,
Is it?
so it's like it moved beyond Wall Street Bets, but like they've got their own thing now. But like the rumor is basically that that GameStop are planning to release a dividend of like an NFT based dividend. And then the rumors went a bit wild that Ryan Cohen was in this group, and then they purchased the album, and everyone was like losing their mind, being like, "We're gonna get an NFT of the, or like a fraction of the NFT of this album," which, like, honestly, I really hope is true, but I don't know.
I think it would probably appeal to the Wu-Tang. That even well before all of this crypto stuff kicked off in NFTs, they were always about spreading that revenue among all members, and about creating that entity that would release at certain times and would be given the same amount of promotion. And so that was a very collaborative and very cooperative kind of group, and quite revolutionary in that respect. So I think that kind of idea would appeal to them. I think fractionalization is, that's going to be a big thing. It's going to happen with land, rentals with land, as I mentioned before, and all of the pitfalls associated with fractionalization. I hope it's done. I hope it's done correctly and beneficially for people.
So, like, say, to go back a little bit here to like the architects and the building things in the metaverse. So say like a big builder or a big property developer came and said, right, okay, we're going to buy like 20 plots of land in Sandbox or Decentraland, and then we're going to use it to build like a massive block of flats, basically, or like a huge building for people to rent out spaces in. Like, is that something that's happening? Because I don't know, it feels like vaguely antithetical to the sort of decentralized nature of it, where people might come in and say, like, big property developers will come in, or big whales of some form will come in and say, yeah, we're going to buy up, large swathes of these parcels of land. Is there like any protections against that, or are they kind of, backing the whales not getting involved early enough?
That is happening, and those major sales that happened just recently. So the one by the Metaverse Group, their intention is to build a retail offering in Decentraland, and Republic Realm, which has made numerous big purchases. They are effectively a virtual land developer, if you like. So their intention will be to build experiences on their land. There was another group called Boson Protocol who bought another very large parcel in Decentraland. And again, they are retail focused, but that transition between the virtual to the physical. So very practical application there. When it comes to how this sits with the whole notion of decentralization, I think that's difficult because, Decentraland came into being with the auctions of 2017, 2018, when all the land was sold. Now, at that point, the people who own that land can really do whatever they like with it. Decentraland, or the foundation, which sort of sits as a guiding force, if you like, but not an owner, they have no say over what the people who bought the land do with the land. And I think that there will be definitely people in the community who will be very much against these large entities coming in and buying and developing the land. But it's just the nature of when you have land for sale and land can be bought, and it is bought, that people will want to do those sorts of things with them. And I think it's really key to remember that we are in such early days with this thing. And there will be more virtual worlds coming, which will have different models and different offerings and do things very different to, the old guard, the Decentralands and Sandboxes, etc.
It's funny.
And
It's
then,
funny just hearing you describe them as like the OGs, like the old school.
yeah, I know it's crazy because my parents hadn't even heard of them the other day, kind of thing. So yeah, it is. But they've been around since. Well, the Sandbox, which has launched its alpha this month, has been in development for the last 10 years. So the best part of so Decentraland has been thought of and in development since 2014, 2015. So yeah, they are to a degree in terms of this space old guard. But yeah, I think to get back to that point, there'll always be this tension between the decentralized intention and how it actually plays out. But I think if you build it and people decide to use their land in certain ways, then that's really you have to let that happen and see how that plays out. I would say that Decentraland and certainly the other main virtual worlds that Parcel deals with, they're all very much held by lots of individuals and so there are big parcels that are owned by big brands and big organizations, and there are the small ones that are owned by the little guys like us.
So just actually, I got an email earlier, probably worth noting for people that there's a Coin Market Cap are running like a thing where if you sign up and follow them on a couple of different like social media platforms, that you get a free alpha pass for Sandbox. Yeah. Worth well, they say in the email 13 grand, but I don't know how accurate that is. But so where would you say there was someone who's listening to this and just thinking, well, this all sounds really cool, but I have no idea where to begin. Like where would you point them to sort of start looking and sort of investigating this world?
I suppose it depends. I get if you're going to dip your toe in the water, then choose any one of the main virtual worlds that are out there. Decentraland, Sandbox, CryptoVoxel, Somnium Space. Somnium Space, it is a better experience with a VR headset, but that's not to say you can't dip in and have a look. The first thing you've got to do is get yourself a wallet. Although you can enter these spaces without having one, but it's a good practice to get a wallet, and the sign up for that and the use of those. I'm thinking, MetaMask, and I think there's a Coinbase wallet and Ledger, and there's various players on the market. So start dipping your toe in the water of getting a wallet, putting some crypto in there, some Ethereum, because these are all Ethereum blockchain based worlds. So that's gonna be true for any of those worlds, and transferable into the specific tokens. And then just go into one of the worlds that you like the look of and have a look around. It's as I say, the communities for each of these worlds are fantastic. Get on Twitter, follow them, get into their Discords and chat with the community admins there. There will always be someone in there to reach out to. Discord's a great platform to be taken through the steps. A lot of the channels have leveling up, so you'll actually go on this kind of narrative to achieve roles and they're kind of geared to educating you step by step through that, and they will explain everything about them. And as I say, there will be tech guys and content people that you can reach out to if you're stuck in any way. So that'd be the first steps, and get on the events pages of these different worlds and find out what's coming up. There's art exhibitions, there's music gigs, there's tours through the worlds as well. I know Decentraland has two main tours that are conducted every week, and that'll take you through some of the highlights of that virtual world. And it's it's really collaborative, it's really welcoming, and that's a good thing to get involved in.
Okay. I'll have to get into some of the Discords. Actually, I'm not on any of them. I don't tend to use Discord that much. It's like a real crypto person's platform.
It is. It could be a lot easier to use, and certainly when you've dealt with other social platforms, there's a bit more work to be done. But once you're into the swing of it, it's fine. And I think it's going to become more and more the standard in terms of people engaging with the communities behind these experiences.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned earlier that there's like, so you had the play to earn people in the Philippines that were, yeah, earning by gaming in the multiverse, or in the metaverse even, sorry. Like, what other things can people do to earn? Because I mean, we've seen this pop up a little bit in a lot of different sort of spaces, like Odyssey, for example, like the YouTube competitor, or actually Jeremy Kaufman, the CEO, told me that we should always refer to them as YouTube's successor.
Okay.
But so they have like a watch to earn sort of model with their own token, their LBC token, and then you can like tip creators in it, and so then they can either choose to keep hold of it and it boosts that video like up their algorithm, or you can like cash it out and exchange it for other cryptocurrencies, basically. So like, what other things can people do to earn as such in the metaverse at the minute?
Yeah, well, you have like browsers like the Brave browser, which is browse to earn effectively, and you earn basic attention tokens, which are on various markets.
So
that's
what it
another
stands for. That makes sense. I've just got Brave,
Yeah.
so I'm seeing this thing like you've got like 4 bat, and I'm like, what is a bat? Like,
Yeah. It's the basic attention token. I mean, it's a really good experience. Obviously, it prioritizes privacy, but yeah, I've been using it for a while, and it seems to work. It seems to work absolutely fine. And I like the idea that you can earn the tokens and then do what you will with those. I'm assuming there'll be more and more benefits as that develops. But yeah, like the play to earn is obviously a big one. I've been reading stuff about education being a big thing. And, you start to read about, research groups who have had to rely pretty heavily on government funding or, other grants and other sourcing methods. Let's say it's an astronomy research group, or any group that can offer up something in terms of an NFT. Like you could NFT the X-rays of something, or the molecular kind of image of something that they're working on, and sales of that NFT goes into research funding. So it really changes the game for those groups. But yeah, so learn to earn. I'm thinking there's applications for fitness as well. So move to earn. Who's to say you couldn't link in your wearable and any the number of steps that you take is somehow linked to your wallet, and so you're earning tokens for more physical exercise, that kind of thing. So it only takes a bit of imagination to think about anything that is or getting people to take public transport. I don't know, like the more that you take public transport, the more tokens that you earn, or the more benefits. Anything that's kind of a frequent flyer type model could be applied to really anything that has any sort of form of frequency attached to it, I think.
That's a really cool concept. Oh, wow. Yeah, I hadn't even considered that being a possibility, because that would be fantastic.
That element of because of the token, and you can either partner up with an existing token or create a token, and then the DAOs kind of come into play as well, which is really an organization of people with a shared interest and a shared goal. So DAOs could form up around all sorts of different things. I mean, we see, if you take the example of Party DAO, which is really a collective of people who want to own NFTs, but individually may not have the funds to be able to grab a Bored Ape or a CryptoPunk. I mean, not many groups have the funds to be able to afford those these days. But the Party DAO comes together and they decide on those assets that they want to purchase as NFTs. They pool their resources and they bid or they buy. So, I think any kind of groups can form together and implement that kind of to earn model. And it can really, as I say, be applied to anything that has any kind of frequency or incentivization for people to get them to do more. I mean, vote to earn. We struggle to get people out to the ballot every 4 years or what have you, and so maybe or even to council elections or anything like that. There could be a DAO that is formed around local political groups. Who's to say?
That's a cool idea as well. You're giving me lots to think about here, man. So yeah, to sort of move towards like wrapping up here a little bit. Where do you see this space? Like, I was going to say in 5 to 10 years, but that's way too long a time horizon. So where do you see this space in 1 year?
1 year.
Yeah.
It moves so quickly. There's a real chance that I'm going to say something and I'm going to look like an idiot, or just it's going to be not pitching far enough. But you just never know. I think let's look at the headlines for a start. I think if we look at a real detail level, I think fashion is probably going to be one of the next big industries to embrace the virtual world and embrace wearables and NFTs, which has huge implications for. I mean, already you're seeing, these big land sales that are very much fashion focused or retail focused. The opportunities that has for fashion labels, either the large houses, the fashion houses, or the independent fashion designer, that's huge. I know Decentraland is doing a fashion week next year, and that's going to be huge for them. I think that the other major headline that we've been seeing is land NFTs. So the land rush is going to be a big thing. So I think you're going to see a lot more of the land bought up and a lot more reselling. And I think that more brands are going to be dipping their toe in the water, hopefully doing long-term engagements and not just kind of, hey, we're in the metaverse kind of thing, but actual, establishing a foothold in the virtual worlds and really, offering something valuable to in-world communities, and also educating and onboarding their own fans in the physical world. And then I guess if we're talking, a game changer, I would have to say if Apple brings out its glasses at the end of next year or even early 2023, that's going to be a big thing for this space. And as I mentioned at the top of the podcast, I think that will probably push AR forward as in terms of the major metaverse experience. I hope more people know about the metaverse generally, and it doesn't just become something that people just get sick of hearing about. I think DAOs will develop more and become more certain of their purpose and how they can help development and expansion in the virtual worlds. But also, I like to think that governance model and people actually taking responsibility for day-to-day decisions in where they live and exist will have some impact on our lives in the physical world. I think it's not a bad thing for communities to start, smaller communities start to take more responsibility for where they live and what happens. So that could only be a good thing.
Do you think it provides like a proof of concept for like non-governmental organizations to run places?
Yeah, I think it could do. I think it's a fascinating model that if it can be nailed in the virtual world by these communities who are really collaborating to make it work, which is great. No one's holding the secrets to themselves. If it can work, then it would be wonderful if it could be implemented in the physical world. I think the current political climate and in the communities that people feel disenfranchised and feel a bit powerless, and so anything that can help them to take that responsibility, I suppose, and actually feel like, okay, I've submitted a proposal here, it's been voted on, and okay, this is quite cool. I'm actually getting things done and things are being enacted. Then proof of concept, absolutely, and it would be great if it comes to fruition.
Yeah, I guess because you see, I don't know, a lot of people especially in my generation, they feel very disconnected from any sort of decision making, and to see that in action would probably be quite if it's the first time you've ever done anything like that, maybe you've never voted because you don't, you're apathetic towards it, or whatever, you have an idea and you put it up for discussion, a petition, and all of a sudden it happens. You're like, wow, I can really make a difference in this scenario. Like that's I can imagine that being very, very inspiring to people in certain ways. I
think if you read the tea leaves, I think it's heading in that direction. There's all the talk of devolution and self-rule at a much larger level, country by country. But then I read just the other day in Cornwall, there's a town that has declared itself a city, I think it was. I don't know the exact specifics, but when you've got communities self-determining what they are as an entity, and then presumably with that new designation as a city, there'll be governance, a whole heap of governance attached to that. I mean, Cornwall's always been this kind of area that has seen itself as a separate entity to England anyway. But that's very cool. Who knows where it could happen. But I think the physical world is always going to move a lot slower than the digital, as we've seen. But I think you could be fairly confident that change is heading that way anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right about the digital world, like moving much faster. It's like governments around the world are just about discussing Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like if you went in there and started like dropping bombs about NFTs and, the metaverse, they'd be like, hang on, slow down here a second.
Yeah. And I think it's fantastic. I mean, just imagine if one day we wake up and El Salvador is held up as the economic kind of pillar of the model of how you embrace the new economy and that kind of thing. I mean, they are buying Bitcoin whenever there's a dip. They're talking about all sorts of developments along this crypto line, and it's really interesting to watch that unfold.
Yeah, and Brazil are proposing actually no tax on renewable crypto mining. Which is just a proposal at the minute, as far as I'm aware. But I think we're going to see a bit of a rush in this direction with things like that in the next year or two. So yeah, I mean, everyone watch this space. I guess that's all we can do and get involved. So yeah, Dave, I really, really want to thank you. It's been really, really educational, and you blew my mind at least 3 times.
Only 3? Come on.
At least 3. I mean, I lost count. So.
All right.
Cool. But yeah, man. Is there anything you want to point people towards, like to look at or check out, or of your work or anything?
Yeah, if they want to head to Parcel and get a sense of the main 4 virtual worlds, they can go to meetparcel.com. That's meat as in MEET, not meat parcel. We don't sell any butchery goods or anything like that.
That is in the description if people want.
Yeah, for sure. That would be great. And yeah, we're all about, as I mentioned, we're about aggregating the listings, making things easier for people to get a sense of, okay, what is this metaverse? What are these virtual worlds? How do I get involved? There's going to be a lot more education and onboarding coming to the site. And at the moment, we're in the process of reaching out to the different worlds, finding out what their needs are and bringing them on board. So there'll be many more worlds coming into the Parcel sphere as we go. But yeah, it's early days and jump in and make a few mistakes and educate yourself, because it's a lot of fun. It moves very, very quickly, but it's a lot of fun once you get involved.
Well, I can't leave people with a better message than that. Everyone, thanks for listening. Let us know if you own any digital real estate in the comments section. So yeah, thanks very much, man. Been a pleasure.
Thank you. Cheers.